Am I on?
You just introduced the whole, because the only one left to introduce is William. So you just introduced the whole council, okay? Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
I am Suzanne Watley, District 1 Council Member, and this is?
Stuart Jacobson, District 3 Council Member. You are sitting in District 3.
Okay,
One of the two finest districts in the city.
We didn't practice that, but if it's going to be that way. We wanted to welcome everyone here tonight. For everybody online and everyone here tonight, thank you for being here. This means a lot to both of us. It's important that we have engagement for our community to be here, so thank you for that. I would like to introduce some special people here tonight. That is our team.
And our fellow council members.
It's going to be that way.
Yep.
Yeah, so our team, we call the Sugarland team, and if you've seen any of our Facebook posts, we call ourselves the team. So tonight I want to introduce William Ferguson, at-large council member.
Okay.
And we have Carol McCutcheon, District 4. Nishad Kamali, District 2. And I want to congratulate them. Monday night, they did a fantastic job. So great, as a matter of fact, that, you know what I'm thinking, Stuart?
No idea. Never do.
I'm thinking maybe we should do just as well as them. They were getting up to come up here. No, that's all right. So tonight, I'm going to let Stuart go over the format of how we're going to work tonight.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. So this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to do about 15 minutes of presentation, and we're going to have 10 minutes for Q&A from the audience. And then we're going to turn it over to Devin Rodriguez from Economic Development, and she's going to talk about our redevelopment plan, and I think you'll find that very fascinating. And then, and there will be some time for Q&A then. And then we're going to turn it over to Georgia Tate and her team, who have done yeoman's work over the last several months, renewing our contract, getting us a new contract for the solid waste, and talk about the stormwater compliance fee, and we're going to have Q&A then. But the way I wanted to start the thing off that Suzanne and I wanted to do is I wanted to just remind everybody how Sugarland city government works. We are what's known as a city manager form of government, meaning that your council is like a board of directors. We set the tone for the city. We set the goals for the city. We set the priorities for the city, and we tell the city what we want to have accomplished. Now, we have a professional manager named Mike Goodrum. He's our city manager. And I can say this without bragging because it's true. Cities all over the state and beyond poach our people to become city managers in their jurisdictions, because we have one of the finest groups that you'll ever find in any sort of profession. So that's how it works here. And what we want to do is we want to know what's on your minds, and we want to know how our priorities are sitting with you, and then we want to go forward. Okay? So I'll turn it over to Suzanne to start.
Thank you, Stuart. So tonight we're going to get a little bit creepy. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and imagine what this city would be like in your best vision. So yeah, really, absolutely close. You're not doing it. Close your eyes and think just for a second of what you would like the city to be. What's your vision? Okay. I think you got it. I hope you do. Open your eyes. No, you closed your eyes. I saw you. So I'm going to call on people in this room, just a few of you, to ask you what your vision is. Mary, what's your vision for our city? You didn't close your eyes, by the way. What's your vision?
Oops. So I envision spaces that we have, similar to what we have now, a very walkable, park-like city, but also more of a mall type of area where there's people living, people gathering, where you can go and shop, and restaurants, but more in a mall type atmosphere Whereas I think I was actually in Kansas City, they have an area that's similar to this, but they also then have big screens.
Yes.
So you can go and watch sporting events in this open area.
I love that. We love that. Thank you. Leon, I want to hear your vision. I think everybody wants to hear your vision.
Well, I'm a little bit on the older side of the community, therefore, I would like to see us really upgrade and get a first-class senior center that would take care of, we're not really as far ahead as other cities with our senior center. And that more resources would be placed in there so that we could have a more participation. I think the community would really be for that if there were more things going on in a real nice senior center.
I love that. And that's very insightful. We're working on that now, so thank you for that. How about Steve? Go.
I guess my vision is to see Imperial Sugar Char House become a destination facility for the city of Sugar Land. To be a great area, which it's not yet. So I'd like to see that improve.
Thank you. I like that. The point is, I think we all have different visions, but we're all pretty much on the same page. We're moving forward, and that's a great thing. You know, in 1959, our city became founded, and we had a vision then. We haven't changed much from then. So what is Sugar Land then that we are now? We were bold and we were thoughtful thinkers. This council is bold and thoughtful, and I think most of you know us to be that way. What we did at our retreat in 2021 in October was to come up with a vision and to come up with 8 strategic outcomes for our city. These priorities, will allow staff to focus on moving our city forward, understanding that each council member, who are unique and individual, put forward the things they thought each of us wanted for our own districts and for the city as a whole. And these initiatives together, when we put them together, define what we feel as a unified council feel are important to keep Sugar Land together, moving forward, successful now and in our future. Oh, my turn. We don't really practice. So what are these strategic, yes, they're there. So what are these strategic outcomes? And I want to tell you, this took us 2 days. We were a fresh council. We were all together. So we took 2 days to work on these. And this is the actual outcome that she drew as we were making them up. It was we came together. These are very organic, very real, and very meaningful to all of us and to you as a city. The first one is government. We wanted our government to be respected and influential. And we work hard to make sure that we as a city are respected among all our peers, just not our county, but our state. We wanted to be a light to other cities. We wanted to have a bold and transparent governance. We wanted to make sure you knew what was going on in our city and that we could take that to other cities. We wanted to deliver our commitment to the public. We want you to know what's going on in our city.
Thank you, Suzanne. The second one is transportation. We are very committed to having a connected and convenient transportation system. Mobility is huge. In fact, some of you may be currently on the mobility task force, which has been impaneled since the day before COVID started. We are very interested and very committed to having technology that will help us get around easily, to paths and bike paths and walking paths, and the ability to get around with or without a vehicle.
You know, we talked about, Mary mentioned infrastructure, sustainability, and resilience. So one of the things we're doing as a city is we're looking to make sure that we have long-term planning efforts to make our city sustainable. It's not just planning to use those structures, it's planning to maintain them and to work with other partnerships in our county and our state to make sure that they're sustainable.
The next goal is becoming a welcoming, being a welcoming and engaging community. It's hard to find fault with Sugar Land in that I don't think that there's a more welcoming or engaging environment for people to move to than anywhere. It's very difficult to imagine a place where people feel more warmly welcome and more warmly greeted. And it's been like this for a very, very long time. We have so many different opinions, but the thing about Sugar Land is we work out our differences and we move forward. And that's the kind of thing that we want to keep on pushing to the next possible level.
And on that note, our culture is important to us. We want our culture here to be fun and dynamic. And I think if you've seen our, is there anybody here who haven't seen our Facebook post as a group? We like to be fun and dynamic, and we want that for our city. We're finding ways to be adventurous. So one of the things we do a lot of is ribbon cuttings. Last week, I went to at least 2. We are getting a Talyard brewery here, right by the ballpark.
Yes, Mrs. Moy was about to put a sticker on the development that says she wants a brewery, and I said, done.
You're welcome. Yeah. It's coming, and it's coming soon. So there are people interested in coming here and helping us have an adventurous city. We just had a ribbon cutting at BB Italia, which is just down the street. So one of the things we want to do is have a destination for adventure.
Okay. Thriving economy. People don't just come to Sugar Land and decide that they're going to open a business here or open a retail or open a restaurant here. It takes a team of economic development specialists, and fortunately we have a top-notch team, to bring people in, to show them how great Sugar Land is and what a great place it is to set up shop. And we also make it about as easy as possible. One thing that I hear time and again when we're at some sort of a ribbon cutting or something like that is, I've never been to a city that actually helped us get started. You know that Sugar Land Art Fest? Has anybody ever been to that? We're coming up on the 2nd annual one. Every vendor I spoke with said, I've never been to a city where the city actually cared about us. We're not just vendors, we're partners. That's the Sugar Land. That's our Sugar Land.
I love it. So our community, one of our priorities, number 7, was making our community strong and safe and secure. And we have that here. I want to introduce our new police chief, Mark Poland. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here. We already have a lot of things for you to do, but we know that with your help, we will remain safe and secure, and we want to be the highest ranked safe city in the nation. That is our goal, and we're looking forward to that. We also have an incredible EMS and first response, and Chief Boker is not here tonight. He's finally on vacation, but in his absence, we have our Chief, Mark Campese. Thank you for being here tonight. So one of the ways that we ensure that we're safe is that we have proper training and equipment to effectively respond to emergency responses. And we provide world-class fire, EMS, and police.
And those drones you saw out there?
That's pretty cool.
They have been used to capture people. That is good news. Finance. This is one that is really close to my heart because I actually love being on the Finance and Audit Committee. Don't ask me why, but it's something I'm living with. Finance, the financial structure here in the city of Sugar Land is bar none the best in the state. We are strong. We are manage our finances according to all the best practices and principles. We are constantly rated by our bonding agencies as the highest ratings, which saves all of us as taxpayers money. You cannot sit on those laurels. We continue, and we continue with that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Those are our 8 strategic outcomes, but now we want all of you here online and everyone we know to be involved and help us to keep those strategic outcomes working. Changing a community is not a spectator sport. We want your help. We want your input. And there it is. Yes, you all are doing so good. There's a big old QR code right there. And if you take that QR code and tap into it, scan it, it'll take you to our strategic outcomes. And we kind of summarized all of this, but you can get a lot more information online at our city website. And you can actually put questions in and find out more information. So please take advantage of that and be a part of our community with us. We can't do our job without your input. So we've talked about our plans for a bold vision. There it is. So as we started out as a community 59, I guess 60 years ago now, let's continue to be that kind of city. Let's be innovative. Let's be bold. Let's be Sugarlanders.
Yay. Now, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Is anything on anybody's mind? Yes, Barbara Rosenberg. from Venetian Estates. She's yours.
She's mine.
And thank you. You're very good at remembering names. Okay, we've lost a lot of our history in Sugar Land. Is there any plan for any preservation, such as the Eldridge Mansion?
That's a good question. Do we have anybody here from the Heritage Foundation?
You know, if we don't know exactly what the plans are for the Eldridge Mansion. However, we will find that out, and we will tell you. We will send it to you. Absolutely.
But that is a fantastic question.
Ms. Hill, did you raise your hand?
My name is Carol Hill, and I've been an animal shelter volunteer for many years. Several years ago, I was in a city council meeting where I believe it was Miss Watley praised our animal shelter about being really proud of serving the city, and it was a real bright star in the Sugar Land way. And lately, there have been a lot of problems the last year and a half, and it looks like the city now is considering outsourcing or regionalization, and it's very concerning. I think most of the volunteers and many residents I spoke to are against those ideas. We want to take care of our animals that are needy in the community, and it seems like Sugar Land is throwing up its hands and saying we don't know how to do it.
If you don't mind, let me field that question. I want to tell you, first of all, that Sugar Land is committed to taking care of its animals. Let's just fess up. There's no secret that it's been messy in the last little while. We've had some very bad publicity and some things going on that we're not proud of. And council, at our last retreat last month, said to staff, we need to figure out what we need to do to take care of our animals, because Sugar Land is not going to abandon our animals. And we said to staff, if that means improving our shelter, great. If that means finding an alternate place to shelter the animals that can do it better, we're interested in finding that out too. You know, there's two different parts to this whole conversation. There's the part where we have animal control officers. We have no intention of asking staff to get rid of the animal control officers. If you have a stray and you need a stray, you call and we'll help. But as far as running a shelter, if we can find a way, no, let me go back. The way that we're going to shelter our animals will be the best way we know how. And if that means sheltering them here in the city, if it means sending them to a regional shelter, I don't know why the word Rosenberg is on everybody's lips, because it was not on ours, but that's a rumor that's been going around. The other thing to remember is that we're not shutting anybody out. We want you all, Lynn, Carol, you, and a lot of other people here, the backbone of our shelter, right? Volunteers, dog walkers, people who clean cages, because it's too expensive to hire people to do that. We're so grateful. I have 2 shelter dogs at home. I know a few of us on council have shelter dogs. Mine both came from Sugar Land. Actually, both of mine were sold to me by James Patterson at charity auctions, if you know what that means. But nonetheless, we are not abandoning our animals, and we understand and are grateful for everything that everyone has done. I received some commentary that said, Sugar Land is a great city. We should have an animal shelter that's commensurate with that. Council believes that we are a great city and we should care for our animals the way a great city does. So that's where we are on this program. Gina.
Yes. So an overwhelming number.
Oh, just a second. We need to mic you.
They can't hear online.
An overwhelming number of people in this community voted during the bond election for a new shelter. I would like to know, what are the plans on that new shelter, or if there's any right
Okay,
now?
everybody hear that question?
Do you want to turn it over to Rob?
No, we're good.
Okay.
So the GO bond election had four propositions. The one of them, Proposition 4, was $6 million. We could sell $6 million worth of bonds to build the animal shelter. Now, the animal shelter cost $10 million. $4 million had to be raised from outside sources, privately or through organizations, before we could do that. Those outside organizations have not actually begun a process. So we have not done anything. We haven't sold the bonds. It's authorized, but we haven't sold the bonds. We may never sell the bonds if we find a better way. I know it's disappointing to think that we may not have an animal shelter here in the city. And I'm not saying that's what's happening. But we're going to examine every possible outcome to make sure that we take care of our animals. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry I don't know your name.
My name is Ann Steckline. You just walked in late. I'm sorry. But I wanted to piggyback on what this gentleman said about the senior center, and you had mentioned it's in process. What does that mean?
The senior center right now, we've done some surveys to find out what our seniors, I would say citizens, but senior citizens want. And we're looking at that right now to find out how we can improve the center and make it better for our seniors. That process, do you want to answer that at all? Where we are in the process of the senior center? No? Oh, Chris.
This is Assistant City Manager
Chris Dubing.
Chris Dubing.
Sure, no, the Parks Department's working through the RFQ process right now to select a consultant to kind of start the study piece. They've done all the public engagement, getting all the feedback there. So we're going through the process now to get the consultant on board, start studying that to look at what those future needs would be and how to best address that senior need.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Chris.
We don't have enough capacity, right? Mr. Doki.
Thank you. I'm just concerned. My water bill has gone up 17% in the last year, 26% over the last 2.5 years. And with this new fee, that's going to increase it to 21% over last year. I'm just wondering if this will ever end and what is the city ever going to do to kind of help people, especially those senior citizens who are struggling right now because of Biden inflation and all the other things that are hitting us, groceries, gas. My light bill went up, 50%. I mean, it's just insane, and everything is going up. And quite honestly, I'm getting the same water and the same trash as I was 6 years ago, but I'm paying a lot more.
Well, fortunately, tonight we have Georgia Tate, and she's going to do a presentation after we get through with this on that whole topic, and she will be happy to take your questions and talk more about that. So,
And if it's not actually answered directly,
yes.
I'll spend some time with you. Or one of the staff will spend some time explaining how we got from where we were 3 years ago on the water bills to today.
And while we appreciate your questions, we would like to keep the questions based on strategic outcomes that we can answer for you. All your other questions that aren't applying to that or applicable, you can put online. Do we have some of the forms here tonight? We also have forms, and we can get Paulina to take those forms, and we can actually answer those questions for you afterwards to keep us on time. So those questions will be answered, but if they're not pertinent to what we're talking about, they really don't make sense for everyone. But we will get your questions answered. We have redevelopment coming up, which we need to talk about because there's a lot going on there, and we have a lot for solid waste. Let's take one or two more questions.
We have two more. I
Yes.
know Lynn and
We don't want to cut you
Leon.
off. We have a couple more, but we want to keep
Yeah,
things moving.
Lynn and Leon.
Can you put the slide back up with the
Sure.
strategic?
I guess I said sure. I don't know.
Okay. So I was going to facetiously suggest that we could regionalize our senior center, but I'm guessing that won't go over well.
Well, we don't have senior control officers, so.
Maybe we
We're
should,
keeping
because
those.
I've seen a few people. Well, anyway, so I believe that all of the talk about the animal shelter is well within the strategic outcome. And this is what I just wanted to clarify. I want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. And I talked to Mr. Ferguson earlier today, that it's my understanding, and this is what I'm going to tell people who are asking me, that we're looking for the gold standard in animal services. Is that right? We've never had that. We've had a great shelter, but we've never, is that the whole goal here? So the goal is not necessarily outsourcing, but the goal is in fact, how can we give our animal services the same level of delivery, quality delivery, as you have vision for this other stuff? Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. And if you weren't one of my neighbors, I would suggest you run for city council. That's exactly right. This is Sugarland. We don't do things half, what the rest of that is. We're going to take care of our animals. We're going to figure out the gold standard way to do it.
So the reason I wanted to clarify that is when you're evaluating, Rob's information, whatever, month or two, whatever that takes to get back to you, and you've already promised us that you'll evaluate our information, you pick where you get the gold standard. And, that's a little bit hard to quantify sometimes with animals, right? Because how much is a stressful experience for an animal? How do you weigh that, right? And I mean, there's costs, and I understand that, but there are some more qualitative aspects that I just hope, just like there are in all of these areas, there are qualitative aspects, right? We don't have a city hall that meets minimum standards, right? We don't have parks that meet minimum standards. We don't have a town square. All of this stuff you're talking about is gold standard. So I just want to, again, make sure that we're all agreeing that when the decision is made, it's because we're achieving a gold standard.
Yes, and with input from you.
Okay, and that was what I was going to say. The kind of input you're offering is the kind of input we need to make that decision. And we want much involvement from especially the people who have been there and working and know. So nothing's going to be made by council or staff without input, and we need that help.
So we have
thank
time
you.
for two more, Leon and then Mr. Doki.
Oh, and we got Andrew back there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew.
And then that's it.
You should have sat in the front, buddy.
We have Sugarland Auditorium over at the school, as you all know, and from what I can see, it's not really being utilized. A lot of cities have plays that they put on a regular basis, and I know the group who's trying to manage it is struggling, but is there any way we could give help to them so we could at least have some sort of program, because it's well attended when we do have something there, that at least once a quarter or something, some kind of program. I know we have the financial center, but that's a totally
that's
different
different
game. This would be for interesting plays and things like that could be used, and it's a wonderful facility. So I wonder if the city could consider something helping out in that area.
Thank you, Leon. I'm in District 1 with you, and I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm going to have someone make sure we get on that, because I like it as well. We're going to do Andrew, and then we're going to be done. But thank you, Leon. Can we get Andrew, and then, okay.
I'm going to drop the mic. I'd love to see if there's an opportunity for community engagement between the city and local realtors to inform renters what our HOA policies are. I think it would make the city continue to keep it nice and clean and look good. And with so many rental houses in the community, you can just drive by and go rental lawn, rental lawn, rental lawn.
That's a great segue. Thank you.
Thank you,
for,
Andrew.
yes, because what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce Devin Rodriguez from Economic Development. And what you're saying touches on directly what the direction that council gave to the city and economic development about redeveloping and renewing our city. So I'm going to turn it over to Devin. And Devin, thank you.
Sit here.
No, I'm just going to get
very
my.
much. So I'm going to start off by showing you all this image, and for those that are in the back, but that might be hard to see, but this is, every city goes through a life cycle. You started as a small town. We started out with Imperial Sugar being a company town. It has grown. We had rapid growth. Can you all not hear me? I'm sorry. We had rapid growth through the 70s, through the 2000s. And now here we kind of are, if you can see, I don't know if this has does this have a thing? No, okay. Thought it maybe had a little pointer or something. Anyways, you can see on the screen there that we're kind of at our peak right now. And so we have we're at a crossroads for where we are in our life cycle and need to reimagine what growth means for Sugar Land moving forward, and also to, number one, stay relevant, preserve our quality of life, and we're going to have some choices to make and some trade-offs to make in order to kind of between these two paths of do we want to redevelop or are we going to decline? And obviously we want to be taking that aspirational redevelopment path, and that is not as easy as when you have greenfield, vacant land that you can develop. So we're going to have some choices to make and some trade-offs. So for those that may not know, only 4% of our city's land remains undeveloped. So in this image here, you can see the black areas are the areas of the city that we do not have development that has occurred on it. And we really have to start looking at not only sites that are important for redevelopment, but also these areas that are shown as undeveloped, because that's important infill. And we're going to need to have the highest taxable value on all of the land that we have in Sugar Land. The reason for that is we need to sustain revenues. In order to keep our property taxes low and to have our high quality of services and amenities, we need to use the land that we have for the highest value that we can make it. So in order to do that, we need three things. This is the economic development impact cycle. I love to talk about it. We need three things. We need jobs, we need people to live here, and we need residents and visitors to spend money. And they need to come, or they come in that order. So just like this city started as a company town, Imperial Sugar brought jobs. Those jobs brought people to live here. They built their lives here. It created a demand for other ancillary services and amenities, restaurants, retail, and so folks start spending that money. They start generating that revenue. That revenue is what goes into the city in order for us to provide the high quality of services and amenities here in Sugar Land. The important part about I said that we need these three things and they need to come in this order. They have a cause and effect relationship. So they're creating demand for the other. You create those jobs come in. It creates that demand for the housing. Housing gets built because there is that demand for it. And the residents move in and create that demand then for retail dining type establishments. That's where you take in your revenues to be able to provide the high quality of services and amenities that we have here in Sugar Land. So we are going to be focusing our redevelopment and infill type efforts in 5 main areas of the city. We call these regional activity centers. And these are the areas where we're going to be focusing our efforts on creating the highest taxable value through mixed-use development. And with this, you'll see 2 main benefits: keeping property taxes low and new amenities. So on that economic development impact cycle that I showed you, oops, I went ahead, sorry. Back here, where I said we have to create jobs first. So we've done a really great job of that. We have had an increase of 14% in our employment in the last 5 years. We have over 70,000 jobs here in Sugar Land. But we haven't attracted new residents along with that job attraction. So sorry, I need to go to my next. So to encourage redevelopment, we need to effectively complete this economic development cycle that I'm talking about. And one of the things that is missing is that we really need to be encouraging a variety of housing options. Right now, it's either single-family homes or a few apartments. And we really have nothing in between. And if you go to the old parts of Sugar Land, you'll see all sorts of different housing types. There's duplexes, there's an accessory dwelling unit over the garage, or maybe an extension of the house. And these are all really important elements for us to be integrating overall into our community. Folks that came on Monday night, some of their questions were, I want my kid to be able to move back home. Well, your kid might not want the 3,500 square foot home, right? That maybe they grew up in, and maybe they want that in 10 years. But if you want them to move back home now, there's not really a whole lot of options for them. And so part of our redevelopment efforts, like I said, it is so important on this economic development impact cycle. We really need to be completing this cycle fully in order to create that demand, that encouragement, and that attraction for the other types of uses that we really want here. So to do this, and for those that may have been at some HOA meetings, you may have seen this already, but in order to encourage this redevelopment broadly within these activity centers that I mentioned in the city, we're looking at changing some of our regulations. And like I said, some of that is to encourage these mix of uses, encourage the commercial, the housing, and the retail to all happen together. And there's lots of benefits to these. Like I mentioned, a place nearby for family. Might not be your kid. Maybe it's your mother-in-law, and they would like to be moving closer to you, but they don't want their big home. So there's lots of options. Also kind of building that pathway to home ownership, walkability, being able to walk to the coffee shop from your home or something like that. Maybe you're not close enough to do that now, and you would like to be able to have some of those amenities really nearby to your home. So creating some of those zoning regulations, that is one of the focus areas that we have for redevelopment moving forward in these activity centers to encourage that change to happen. Some of the other focus areas that we have is the redevelopment of the Imperial Historic District, as well as the Lake Point area. And the Lake Point area is off of, for those that don't know, are off of Highway 6, off of Floor Daniel. Another focus area that we have, because we have split up this initiative into kind of commercial, residential, but it all works together, like I said, because of that cycle, is a residential reinvestment focus. And so we are looking at we're calling it the Great Homes Pilot Program. And so we hope to have more information to share with the community soon, but it's something that we're looking at to encourage of our existing housing stock. How can we encourage some of those improvements and investments, not only in upgrading some of our existing housing, but also benefiting the neighborhood as a whole, right? I mean, one neighbor might do something to the front of their house or put in some new landscaping, and it might inspire the neighbor next door to be able to do something similar. And soon those things catch on fire, and you have a whole neighborhood that has kind of made some upgrades and improvements to their homes. And with that, we want to hear from you. You can visit our website. This QR code goes to some of the information on that activity centers that I mentioned. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, gosh. The big button. The big button's so much easier to press.
You mentioned a lot about housing and redeveloping housing. How about shopping centers? We have, I'll call it the gateway to Sugar Land. It's in Stewart's district, which is the intersection of 90A and Dairy Ashford and Sugar Creek Boulevard, and 59 is what I'm looking at as a declining shopping center, which leads to declining neighborhoods. What can the community and the city do to help that situation out? And then, of course, you've got the Imperial Sugar facility that I know that's been talked about for a lot of years. But, you know, the gateway to Sugar Land is the first major intersection that you come to in the city of Sugar Land, and it's really starting to look shabby.
So your first question about shopping centers and what are we doing about shopping centers. We are looking at some incentive programs perhaps that would be similar to what we talked about with the residential reinvestment, of being able to improve some of those facades or parking lots and making some of those improvements. From a broader kind of, like I talked about, that economic development impact cycle perspective, we are not the only game in town anymore. We are not the only shopping destination in Fort Bend County. That's how we started. I think that's why we, between our destination venues and because a lot of people came to Sugar Land to do their shopping, that's why we had built the retail that was built. But now we have competition. We have other areas in Fort Bend County, Richmond, Rosenberg, housings that have been developed out there with retail next door, and it is much more convenient for those folks to be able to go to the shopping center that's right next to their home. And so when I talked about the importance of completing that economic development impact cycle, we need to create demand again for the type of retail that we want. And so we need the people in order to do that. Retailers make their decisions on where they're going to go, number one, on demographics. Who is their shopper? How many people are in an area? What is the income level of the households that are in that area? What is, depending on the retailer, what is the educational attainment of that? It's all done by those demographic numbers. once they find out, yes, this is a market area and a trade area that we want to be in, then is the real estate available for me? Maybe, they only want 5,000 square feet and all they can find is a bunch of 10,000 square feet and the landlord's not interested in being able to divvy up their land. Well, then they might go and look somewhere else. There's just a lot of factors that go into it. So we're looking at incentive programs that might help some of those, smaller shopping centers move forward. But from like the broader scale, we need to create that demand again for our retailers. And I would say out to everybody out there that you're looking for of like, why don't we have this retailer anymore? I would encourage you to shop local. I know it's easy to make that purchase on Amazon, but if you really care about the retail that we have here in Sugar Land, shop local here in Sugar Land and put your dollars there to support those retailers.
When you're talking about redevelopment, I'm noticing that there are lots of housing areas that I'm thinking, how do those folks get to a grocery store? Because there's so much housing, but it's a few miles to a grocery store. When you approve a development, do you consider where the grocery's going to be, where the school's going to be, can there be adequate traffic to pick up the kids and drop them off at school? I look and see what has happened at Clements High School, and it's scary if you're there at 2:45 in the afternoon. This should be part of the redevelopment process. Ought to be this thought of room for stuff. Requiring the developers to allow room for what needs to be there.
So for most of the areas of the city, I'm going to get the button right this time. Most of the areas of the city, you'll see we don't have a lot of undeveloped land. There isn't going to be major master plans that are going to be developed in this city. This is how the city was developed, is large subdivision master plans. That is not how redevelopment is going to operate, because a lot of it is going to need to be infill. So it's going to be meeting the needs of the existing areas. Things are going to be much more compact because we don't have acreage, I think, of what you're talking about in terms of Sugar Land was developed that way in master planned areas with this is where the school site is going to be and this is where the retail is. But in redevelopment, it's going to be, let's look at this area. There's a lot of housing, but no commercial here. This would be a good place to be able to build some commercial. Oh, there's a lot of commercial or a lot of office here, but nobody is living here, so we have no nighttime population.
Are you considering rezoning so that, if you want to put a bed and breakfast, or if you want, for the kids who want to come back home? In the old days, the sugar company said, if you want to add a room to your house for $5 a month more, we'll add a room to your house. Doesn't that sound amazing? But that's what happened. So there's got to be some rezoning for something that's less than single family, too. Mm-hmm. Is that in your plan?
Absolutely. So that's exactly what I was talking about in terms of this, and that we are looking at our regulations on how we can encourage this development that we do want. We want these mix of uses. We need it to be sustainable. We need it to have a high taxable value in order to keep your property taxes low and bring amenities here. So we need to have a mix of housing types. And so that is something that we're looking at in our regulations, because right now we're on this either or situation and nothing in between. And how do we encourage those incremental steps to get to where we would like to be?
Oh, hi, good evening. I love the conversation we're having tonight. I'm hearing things that I wish I had heard a year ago. I certainly wish these people had been in this room earlier this year when the conversation of the gateway to Sugar Land was brought up, the idea that we need new zoning to address kids coming in who want to return home. There are a lot of things that are being talked about. I'm looking at the charts outside, and I'm seeing the things that have been on those charts for 10 years now. We want more connectivity. We want to be able to walk some. All of those things are still being talked about. And the regional activity centers were set up to address the redevelopment and to give the citizens exactly what we're talking about tonight. And we had an opportunity this past year to see something happen in Sugar Land, $100 million investment in the gateway area that would give us just a whole new look. And the developer worked a year with the city. Staff approved it, P&Z approved it, and our city council voted it down. I hope after tonight's conversation and after this amazing presentation you're doing and listening to what you're hearing tonight, I hope we don't see that happen again. The next time we have an opportunity to make these things take place in Sugar Land and do something for the future of Sugar Land. I can say this because I'm an old codger, okay? I've lived here and I've had my great day, and Sugar Land's been fantastic. But we have to hand over the baton, and we have to think for the next generation. And I'm hearing that from some of the young people, and I'm going, let's see how we can give this to you. You see the future. We're looking at it as a past. And so I want us to see this come to pass. Let's vote for redevelopment next time. Council, please.
Yours, but I think you need to do some sort of a sales campaign, because I had exactly the same thought that, we're a bunch of old people in Sugar Land, right? We're not going to vote for the stuff that's going to bring the 30-year-olds home, and they're not voting because they don't live here. And I honestly don't think, until I had a conversation with Mr. Ferguson today, I haven't really thought enough about that the vitality of our city means we need younger people. And so is there some sort of advertising that you can do to get people to vote in really what's their best interest, but doesn't feel like their best interest because they don't want an apartment next to their neighborhood? But in fact, it is in their best interest.
So you're sitting next to one of my partners in crime when it comes to getting the word out. We are working on that. So we have had some really great conversations at Sugar Land Fall Fest. We talked to almost like 150 people that came out, and we talked to them about redevelopment. We talked to them about missing middle housing. We talked to them about, what we need to move Sugar Land forward. We've been reaching out to the different neighborhoods to have those conversations, and we're working right now on kind of tactics on how do we take that broader out into the community. And any of you that like this, we appreciate your support in kind of helping us spread that message.
Who has ownership of the property around the prison, all that vacant land? Is it Sugar Land?
Yes, city owns the prison property.
So why don't y'all develop that for apartments, homes, walking malls and everything, and then have like a bus, a cute little trolley going from Town Square to there, to the sugar factory, to the ballpark. Mm-hmm. You've got a gold mine there, and it's just sitting there. And leave the prison as a museum, and maybe add some other museums around there and have a museum district.
I love your vision. I love it. I love your vision. I love your vision. Jim, do you want to answer any of this? Okay.
So I can't tell you that we're working on having a trolley, but the city is definitely working on making that property developable. And there's adjacent privately owned property. So we don't own all the property in that vicinity. There's some of it's privately owned, some of it is owned by the city. We are putting together plans for a $27 million plus drainage improvement project that's necessary to get that area out of the floodplain. That's a unique area. It's in two different floodplains, Oyster Creek and Brazos River. The city has secured an interest-free loan from the Texas Water Development Board that will help with that. There's a private developer who is going to have to help us pay for that because it benefits his property as well. The city is working with the county to bring access across that property. So we're very cognizant that that is property, and we're working that can be developed, and we're working diligently to make it developable. Now, our thought right now for the area around the prison, Public Safety Training Center, some of that area is property that actually belongs to the airport, and we are in need, I don't know if you've noticed, but our business park is kind of full. We're in need of additional business park space, and the private interest is looking for an area to develop residential. So I don't know, again, that we'll have the trolley, but we are working to bring that property into a condition where it can be developed.
I know you're looking for more people to come into Sugar Land, but have you ever looked at the youth sport industry? These people with baseball, soccer, and other sports travel all over the state of Texas for tournaments and everything else, and we have some pretty nice facilities, and we could expand them, but they will go thousands of miles to come to these tournaments, and it's a really big thing, and a lot of people come. It helps the hotels, it helps the motels, and helps all the restaurants, and it's kind of an exciting thing. So have y'all really looked into developing venues for these youth sports so that these activities could be handled here in Sugar Land?
So I am not the person to answer that question, and I don't know if somebody from Parks is here, but that is definitely something that has been on the discussion list regarding youth sports.
How does the 4A and 4B department relate to redevelopment? Because I was told at one time the tourist dollars are used for all kinds of interesting things. Might it be used for some of your redevelopment ideas?
So the 4A and the 4B are our economic development dollars. We do sometimes use some of those 4B dollars since they are quality of life and kind of tourist destination. We have used 4B dollars for tourism as well. There's also the hotel occupancy tax, which is the main kind of funding source for our Visit Sugar Land and tourism efforts. We are utilizing and maximizing all of those funding sources. I am in the economic development department. We actually just reorganized our department to have this kind of community development and redevelopment focus. So when we can use 4A and 4B dollars or hot tax dollars in order to bring some of these projects to fruition, when I say that, can we, like, is it eligible per the state statute for us to use those dollars? We are absolutely maximizing that those funding sources in order to do so. Any other questions? I already got my 5-minute sign, so. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Devin. Everybody had great ideas and some great questions. If you have more questions or ideas, use the QR code that's gone and let us know what you have. I appreciate everybody's input. So next we have Georgia Tate, and Georgia is going to talk trash with you. So all those questions you have about your stormwater fee, she's going to answer for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Who's excited to talk about trash? It's literally my favorite topic. You have no idea. So tonight we're going to get started. And after the presentation that you've heard from our city council members, after you've heard the wonderful presentation from Devin and our economic development group, you're kind of seeing a trend that change is coming, long-term change as well as short-term change. And so tonight I'm going to kind of keep in touch with that theme and talk to you about some more changes that are coming. Some changes in how we fund things, like our stormwater program, some changes in what your trash looks like, which I know makes people nervous, but I promise it's not too bad. But then also some really cool tools that our city staff has created to help you navigate those changes. So to start off, I'm going to talk a little bit about changing the funding of our stormwater program. Currently, the stormwater program is funded by the general fund, which means it's funded by tax dollars. We have unfunded state mandates from the federal and state governments that we are required to have a stormwater management program. They tell us we have to have one, but they don't provide us the dollars to do it. And so up until this year, the city has funded the stormwater program, which includes our operations and maintenance of our drainage system. That includes all of the environmental compliance regulations that we have to maintain with the state and federal agencies. It includes our amazing staff and our public works department that works to support our drainage system. All of that is funded, and it costs the city about $2.2 million a year. So we're told we got to spend that money, and we're not provided the dollars. And that's created a lot of strain in the general fund because we have a lot of competing interest. We've heard a lot about parks tonight. Our parks are beautiful. We want to make some changes in those parks. That costs money. Our police department, our police department is amazing at keeping you safe, but it costs money to run a police department and a fire department. It costs money to maintain our stormwater system. And so City Council directed staff to find some options to fund programs that would give us a little bit more wiggle room in that general fund. And so one of those options was a stormwater compliance fee. Now, this isn't anything new. Over 100 Texas cities have a stormwater compliance fee. And what it does is instead of the money coming out of the general fund, the money will actually come from user fees. So just like the solid waste fund that is funded directly by your solid waste bill, the new stormwater fund will be funded directly through user fees. This creates a dedicated and sustainable funding source for stormwater so that City Council, city staff never has to worry about not funding a program that is mandated by the state and federal governments for us to uphold. This also helps us address any additional needs in the future for stormwater as those regulations could change. Now, I know no one likes to hear the term new fee, but we have done everything we can to make this new fee as equitable as possible and try to distribute it to those who are actually impacting the stormwater system based on their contribution. So we actually look at GIS data that shows us the impervious area of every property. Now, impervious area, I know that's a very technical term, and up until a few years ago, I had no idea what it meant, but I'm a professional now, don't worry. Impervious area is any man-made surface that cannot be penetrated by water. So as a homeowner, we're talking about your driveways. We're talking about the foundation that your home sits on. We're talking about your patios. As a business owner or a commercial property owner, we're talking about your parking lots, your warehouses, your office space that sits on a foundation, things like that. So we look at your impervious area, and that is how we calculate how much you're contributing to the storm system. Based on that information, the city ran a really complicated model that helped us identify what the average resident would be paying for this stormwater compliance fee, which comes out to less than $3 a month for the average Sugar Land resident. That's based off the size of your impervious area. Now, some residents have a little bit smaller property. They might have less impervious area. Their rate might be a little lower than $296 a month. Other residents might have a little bit more impervious area. I have a few residents that have a basketball court in their backyard, which is really great for their teenagers, but it is impervious area. So their rate will go up a little higher than $296 a month. But the average resident will be paying less than $3 a month with this new fee. And as you can see from this data, that's incredibly low compared to some of our benchmark cities in the state of Texas. So I mentioned how much the fee was going to be. I mentioned that some residents will see a little lower, some will see a little higher. We've also created some tools to help you understand this. In the brief amount of time I had with you, I gave you the highlights. There's lots of more information on our website that gives you more information on those state and federal requirements, all of the activities our stormwater team does, all of the work of our amazing public works staff, all of that's on our website. You can also see some frequently asked questions. You guys have a lot of questions about fees. We love to answer them. Those are actually answered on the website for you. If you ask a question we haven't heard before, we will add it to the website. You can also learn more about our existing stormwater program, and you can submit a question to stormwater staff. That means it comes directly to me. So if you submit a question on the website, I'm the one that receives the email. You can also utilize our new Find My Stormwater tool, stormwater fee tool, my apologies, where you can type in your address, residential or commercial, and it'll tell you what your projected rate will be effective in January. So this new rate isn't starting this month. You've got 2 more months. Prepare yourselves. Change is coming in January for the stormwater program. So beginning in January, you will see this new line item on your water bill. Right next to solid waste, which is everyone's favorite topic. I'm going to segue into this, and then we'll take some questions about both topics, okay? Earlier this fall, our city council approved a new solid waste contract with Republic Services to extend that partnership that we already had with that contractor. This wasn't just one council meeting and we're done. Your council members heard me talking about trash for a very long time. We actually started this process last summer with our solid waste task force, which was a resident-led task force to help us decide what the priorities for solid waste and recycling should be, not just for this contract, but for the future in total. That new contract goes into effect in January, and there are some major changes that are coming with that contract. The first change is service days. Unfortunately, some of our residents are going to see service day changes, but I promise it's for a really good reason. We're actually looking to optimize our solid waste routes so that we can get the trucks in and out of your neighborhoods as quickly and safely as possible. Our goal is to have the trash trucks out before your kids get home from school, before you take your dog for a walk or you go for an evening jog. So in order to get those trucks through the streets, through the neighborhoods quicker, we did have to change up the routes a little bit. We also have a new requirement for our green waste. How many of you have your green waste bagged by yourself or a landscaping company? Awesome. Some of you just don't have green waste. I don't believe that in Sugar Land. The city has actually, City Council has approved a new requirement beginning in January where if your green waste is bagged, it must be bagged in a clear bag. Now, many of you already use clear bags. Your landscapers already use clear bags. Great job. Keep it up. We do have reasons for that. The first being contamination. When someone puts trash out on a green waste day and it gets mixed in with that green waste, we can't recycle the green waste like we usually do. The second reason is federal reimbursements. In the event of a natural disaster like a hurricane, a tropical storm, a freeze, and the city has a lot of green waste debris, if we collect that debris, the city is only eligible for reimbursement if that debris or green waste debris is in a clear bag. If they see black bags or non-translucent bags, they actually dock points and dock funds from the city. So we take on a lot of additional financial risk if we don't have those clear bags. So rather than educate you in the middle of a hurricane, we've decided to make it a year-round requirement for Sugarlanders. Can I wait till the end to take questions? Thank you. I'll lose my train of thought and we'll be way off. Next, we have bulky waste. How many of you can tell me what your bulky waste day is? What Monday? third. I've heard a first, a second. That is awesome. I'm so proud of you, but I'm going to change it. Okay? Beginning with the new contract in January, we are actually switching to a new on-call flexible bulky waste program where you only use it when you need it. Now, I know that sounds stressful. You're used to your once a month collection on your assigned day, which I am so proud of you for learning. But whenever we surveyed residents, Sugarlanders could not agree on bulky waste. Some of you wanted it twice a year. Some of you wanted it twice a week. And it was really hard for us to find a middle ground there. And that's where we came up with this new on-call flexible service. You still get 12 collections a year, but you schedule them when you need them rather than waiting for your assigned day. The next change that's coming is customer service. Now, there's a lot of changes lumped into that. The first one being brand new trucks. Republic Services is ordering 36 new trucks to run in Sugar Land for residential and commercial. I have seen 3 of them that have already arrived. They're beautiful until the trash touches them. So we have new trucks coming. We also have cameras coming on those trucks so that I can see everything going on and going into those trucks. I can see things happening in your neighborhoods, and I can monitor the contractor to make sure their performance is to the Sugar Land standard. We also have GPS on those trucks where I can see where they are at all times, but so can you. We're actually bringing out a new app. We're working with Republic Services to develop a new app where you can track your trash truck. You can see how many stops it is from your home. You can see when they have gone to the landfill or gone to the recycling center. You can see exactly when your trash is gone, and you can bring your cart back up to the curb so that you're in compliance with our solid waste ordinance. So those are all things coming for the customer service to make your experience better for this concierge contract that we have in Sugar Land. I mentioned that we have some service day changes. You'll see some neighborhoods behind me. Those are the neighborhoods that are going to be impacted. Many of you, I have already talked to you. I've talked to your HOA. I'm going to keep talking to you. You're going to be real sick of me because I'm going to try to make sure you're aware before those changes come into effect. We have a few other additional enhancements that are coming, including a new landfill drop-off service. So everyone gets 12 bulky waste pickups a year. What if you run out? We have a new program where you can actually drop those items off at the landfill at no charge. It's included in your rate. Every Sugar Land household is allotted 1 per month, and you get 3 cubic yards per month. So you have 12 bulky waste pickups plus 12 landfill drop-off pickups. I mentioned the new Republic app. That's something new that's coming to Sugar Land. The app does more than just tracking your trash truck. You can also view your schedule, which I know sometimes we forget our schedule. You can also submit an inquiry. You can schedule a bulky waste pickup through the app. You don't have to talk to a human. You don't have to talk to me. You can do it straight through your phone. So all of that is coming. The other change that's coming is your rate. So right now your monthly rate is a flat $20 a month. Beginning in January, with all of those enhancements that we just walked through and those service changes, the city has actually negotiated a lower solid waste rate for residents. I'm saving you 15 cents a month. You're welcome. But we were able to negotiate a lower rate for our residents. And I know that math might seem confusing, but because we were able to increase some of the efficiencies and reduce the number of trucks on our roads, we were actually able to reduce the cost for our residents with the new contract. Now again, that's a lot of change that's coming. I have a website for it. It's actually called Change is Coming, so everyone should be aware. Again, you'll find frequently asked questions on this project page. You can learn more about our solid waste program. We have some services some residents aren't even aware of, like our bulk cardboard collection. It's included in your rate. If you buy a big TV and the box doesn't fit in your can, call Republic, they'll pick it up, free of charge. Bulk cardboard is something not enough residents know about, and I want to make sure you know about it. You can also submit a question to solid waste staff. Again, it comes directly to me. I get a lot of questions. And then you can also utilize our Find My Service Day tool, where if your address or your neighborhood was on the list up there, you can type in your address and it'll tell you what your new service days will be in January. I will be also coming to visit those neighborhoods to give you a friendly reminder before those service days happen. Our friends in communications will be telling you on Nextdoor, and you can also sign up for text notifications. You can sign up for a text, and I will text you the second week of January and say, hey, don't forget your service day changed. Put out your trash tonight. We will also use that to text you for other city services, but solid waste is the most important. Don't tell anybody else I said that. And with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
We were very excited earlier, so you get to go first.
Thank you so much for that. I'm Chris. I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First relates to the green waste. So you said they're going to be in clear bags, but for branches and stuff like that, Sugarland's been very good to us on that. Not particular at all, and they'll take it and haul it away. Is that still going to be the case?
There will be no change for your branches or limbs.
Okay, and
just
then for
bagged
people who put
waste.
green waste in, like trash cans that gets dumped in, is that still
No
legal, or
change.
is no change there?
You can still use a personal container.
Okay, and my other question relates to hazardous wastes. You will recall probably that a few years back, you could call the city. They'd come, you make an appointment. They would come and pick up electronic and hazardous waste, old televisions. They'd pick up paint thinners, all kinds of stuff like that, and take it away. And then I read about a year ago that they did a survey, and 90-some% of all people don't generate that kind of waste and don't have any use for this. So now, if you want to dispose of that properly through the city, you have to pay an extra fee. So my question is, if you have paint thinner, if you have old televisions, and you want to dispose of them properly, what do you do?
Yes, sir. There's two parts to that question. The first one, what do you do now? Currently, you bring your items to the Fort Bend County Recycling Center in Rosenberg, right off of 59, and you can dispose of those items responsibly there. Please do not put them in your garbage containers. I really appreciate it. There is a fee. You are charged a fee at the Fort Bend County Recycling Center. But that is the next item on my to-do list from City Council. We did eliminate the service a few years ago because of low participation. And so we're looking at options to bring it back and what that would look like, if it's collection events, or if it is a collection site, or if it's bringing back curbside collection for those who are willing and interested to pay for the program. So within the next year, I have been tasked with bringing those options back to City Council to supplement the Republic Services contract.
And that is, if 90+% of people don't use the service and don't want the service, does that mean that 90+% of people are not throwing away televisions or paint thinners? Or does that mean that the rest?
Yeah. We do encourage our residents to dispose of items responsibly. We actually do get a lot of calls to our 311 contact center with residents saying, hey, I found this in my garage. How do I dispose of it? A lot of our residents actually put items out for bulky waste day and they disappear. There's lots of options to eliminate those items. But I do agree with you that we will definitely need to be talking with our residents to find out what kind of waste needs they actually have.
Dispose of it properly should have to pay, and people who don't should be allowed to dump it down the drain to storm sewer or something.
Yes, sir. I understand. And unfortunately, that type of waste disposal is expensive. And so we do have to find a way to pay for it. Next question.
Yeah, a couple of questions on solid waste. Where is the landfill?
Yes, sir. The Blue Ridge landfill,
Yeah.
it's about 20 miles to the east. Which way are we? To the east. 20 miles to the east. It's right outside of Pearland.
Outside of what?
Pearland.
Pearland. Oh,
Yes, sir.
wow, okay.
It's a little bit of a hike.
Yeah.
I do understand that. But that landfill is actually a methane gas conversion landfill where the gas that comes off the landfill is then utilized and converted into energy. So it's a very green landfill, but it is a little bit of a hike for residents, but it is free.
And the other question, if you have to schedule the pickups now, that doesn't sound very efficient. I mean, quite honestly, the truck's running one day a month and getting everything at one time sounds like a much better plan. Secondly, my homeowners association is a rabid dog. They will pounce on me like crazy if I put something out that doesn't get picked up. So how quick is the schedule?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna address your first question about efficiency. Right now, Republic is running every single street in Sugar Land once a month for bulky waste, when less than 20% of residents are utilizing their bulky waste day. By scheduling it as it's needed, we're able to schedule you by your area. So if you call and then your neighbor calls, we'll put you on the same schedule because you're in the same neighborhood, as long as you call within the same close amount of time. Yes, sir. The new requirement for Republic is 5 business days. If you call them and tell them you need a bulky waste pickup, they are required to put you on the schedule and pick up that item within 5 business days. They will
leave the trash out in your front?
I encourage you to call ahead. Please, please, please do not put your items on the curb for 5 business days. We encourage residents to think ahead when they're calling Republic. 5 is the maximum. We're working closer on a 1 to 2 day turnaround time for those bulky waste pickups. But we do encourage you to call ahead. If you know you're going to clean out your garage, give us a heads up. If you know you're going to have a crawfish boil, please give us a heads up for crawfish. We have other ways to help that. Now, one thing I didn't mention is if you really like your third Monday, if you are a creature of habit and that is your favorite day of the month, you can actually call Republic in January and pre-schedule for the entire year. So you can continue to keep that service if you want it. Yes, sir. They'll give you a date. Yes, sir. And we're working with the HOAs to make sure they're aware of that change.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you still have, or will you still have disability backdoor pickup? And now it's free. Will it still be that way?
Yes, ma'am. Our card assistance program is always available in Sugar Land. We still have that program available. No problem.
You mentioned big cardboard boxes.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
recyclable?
Yes, ma'am, it is. As
Okay.
long as it doesn't have pizza grease on it.
As long as it doesn't have what?
Pizza grease.
Oh, grease. Okay. Okay. I had another question. Oh, in the old days, and maybe we still have it, where you can schedule a truck to be left there and you fill it up. How does that work?
Yes, ma'am. We still have a program where you can schedule for a container to be dropped off and then you fill up the container. Typically that happens if someone's doing some work on their home. If you're doing some redevelopment of your property, you can actually schedule one of those through Republic. That's typically how we utilize that service. I can't leave a whole truck though.
Okay, one real quickie.
Yes, ma'am.
Other cities have new bags that I've seen that are biodegradable.
Yes, ma'am.
What are they doing with all the clear ones? I'm assuming they empty them.
Yes, ma'am.
And would it be more advisable to go to these biodegradable bags?
Yes, ma'am. That was a question that came up with our solid waste task force earlier this year. And we actually worked with an environmental consultant who informed us that the compostable bags take so long to break down, and some of them don't actually break down entirely. And so the actual smartest move for the city was to move to a clear bag option, which could also help us keep that contamination level down. A lot of those compostable bags, you can't see through them. And so the translucent bag is what was recommended by the consultant, and it's what was recommended by the task force to city council. The clear bag does not get recycled, no ma'am. One last question, and then we'll hand it over to the council members.
Okay, there are a lot of houses.
Yes, sir.
On the hill particularly, that do not have a concrete foundation. They're up on pillars or on beams. Are they going to have to pay a fee even though they don't have concrete underneath their houses? They're pervious.
But their roof is not.
It goes through the ground.
The water comes off of the roof, it runs through the ground, and it ends up in our stormwater
And
system.
it runs under the house. I used to live on the hill.
Yes,
I
sir.
can guarantee you
Yes,
there will
sir.
be 4 or 5 inches of water underneath that house after every rain. So they
Yes,
should
sir.
not have to pay this fee.
Yes, sir, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you, Mr. Leon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Georgia. We all learned a lot about trash tonight, and I want to thank you for your questions. They were actually great questions. And I've been to a lot of homeowners meetings, and I've listened to that quite a few times. And some of those questions I haven't heard before, so thank you for that. So tonight we want to thank you all for coming. It took a lot for you to come out here tonight and to join us, so thank you for that. I want to thank all of the people online as well. Do we have people online? Do we know that? Yes, we do. Do we have any questions from online? Okay, good. Okay. And I want to invite you now to volunteer with our city. We have a lot of occasions to where we need volunteers in our city. We have commissions, we have boards, we have events. And Paulina, can you stand up? Paulina runs our volunteers online and in person, and she's here tonight if you want to talk to her about opportunities to get involved. There was a great opportunity I'm going to just push right now. Chief Campese is here, and he can talk to you about it a little bit more if you want to talk to him afterwards. He's going, what? It's the Citizens Fire Academy. We are taking applications through December the 9th, and we are looking for people who want to find out more about how our fire department works. It's a great program, and we'd love to see you join up for that. So thank you all for joining us. Stuart?
Thank you. It was a pleasure being with you tonight. We really appreciate all the questions and the fact that you could come out or tune in. And, we do this because we love this. Only one of us is retired on city council. The rest of us have full-time jobs. But nonetheless, we love this, and that's why we do it. We love Sugar Land, and we love taking care of you. So that's what we want to keep doing.
We want to thank some special people who have worked really hard, and 2 of those people wrangle us all the time. So Cindy, thank you for everything you do to take care of us. Where's Jessica? Jessica, thank you. I know that we're a lot to work with, and I don't just mean us, I mean all of council. So thank you both for all you do. And I want to thank especially Jevin. You did a great program tonight. Thank you for all you did. And Georgia, the greatest trash talker ever. and Jim Calloway stepped in tonight too. So thank our staff. We want to thank our staff for everything you do. You make us look great up here. So thank you. Okay, great evening. Thank you very much. We'll be here later if you want to ask questions, and staff will stick around.
We have a meeting across the street.
Oh, we won't be here later. We have a meeting across the street.
Staff
But
is
will be
here,
around to answer your questions.
and you can submit any questions that you need to. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Turn off your mic.
I forgot we have a meeting.
Yeah.